We often talk about Japanese watches, but conversation usually stops at Seiko or Citizen. But Japan has a growing world of microbrands, where small teams design watches with deep intention, cultural roots and strong identity. These are not mass-market pieces. These are watches built with emotion, patience, and a clear point of view. Today we are walking through those microbrands watches you probably never heard of. Let's get started. You know how some watches feel like they were designed to be understood instantly, and others feel like they ask you to slow down a bit? Kurono Tokyo clearly belongs to the second group, and that makes sense because this brand comes from someone who understands patience better than most. When we talk about Kurono, we are really talking about proportion first, before colour, before movement, before anything technical. You put one on wrist and it just feels right. Case does not shout. Dial does not compete for attention. Everything sits where it should, which is rare. Art Deco influence is there, but it is not dramatic. It shows up in curves, in symmetry, in how numerals feel balanced rather than decorative. Dials often have layers, and when you look closely, you start to see depth instead of surface. Light moves across dial in a calm way, which makes you glance more often than you expect. Watches like Chronograph 1 or Anniversary Toki explain this philosophy clearly. Sizes stay wearable. Colours feel deliberate. Movements come from Miyota or Seiko, which might sound simple, but that is actually part of charm. You are not afraid to wear it. You live with it. Kurono feels like a watch that respects your everyday life. Now let us shift gears slightly. Imagine holding a watch and feeling like it was built rather than assembled. That is usually first reaction with Minase. What catches your attention is not dial. It is structure. Case feels layered, almost floating within itself. This case-in-case construction gives depth from every angle. When you move wrist, reflections change, not randomly but with control. Polishing deserves a pause here. Salaz polishing creates mirror surfaces without distortion, which sounds technical until you see it in real life. Light does not bend or ripple. It stays clean. That level of finishing changes how watch feels emotionally. Dial designs feel architectural. Hands appear suspended. Sapphire allows light to enter from sides, which adds dimension. Movements come from Swiss bases, then refined to match design language. Minase is for you if you enjoy discovering details slowly, especially when craftsmanship reveals itself over time. This is where conversation turns very personal, because this is not really about a brand, this is about a watchmaker. When you hold a Hajime Asaoka watch, you immediately feel intention. Case has weight, but not excess. Dial layouts are calm, which lets mechanics speak softly underneath. Large balance wheels move with a rhythm you can almost sense. Everything here is in-house. Movement design, construction, finishing. You see bridges, screws, and surfaces that were shaped by hand. This is not meant to be efficient. It is meant to be honest. Interaction changes how you think about time. Winding feels deliberate. Setting time feels like a small ritual. This is for you if watchmaking itself is your passion, not just watches as objects. At first glance, you might think nothing special is happening, and that is exactly the point. Design language here is extremely restrained. Dial looks simple, case looks classic. Then light hits hands at a precise angle, and suddenly everything changes. Black polishing reveals itself quietly, almost shyly. These watches reimagine mid-century aesthetics with modern precision. Movements start from high-end bases like Vulture, then receive intense hand finishing. Result feels calm, controlled, and deeply refined. This brand speaks to you if you enjoy understatement, if you believe confidence does not need volume, if you appreciate details that only reveal themselves when you pay attention. Now this is where conversation takes a deeper turn, because here we are not just talking about watches, We are talking about how time itself is understood. Masahiro Kikuno draws inspiration from traditional Japanese timekeeping, where hours changed with seasons. That philosophy shapes everything. Dials can look unfamiliar at first. Then slowly, you start to understand the intention behind them. Many components are handmade: wheels, pinions, engravings. Interaction feels different. Winding feels tactile. Setting time feels deliberate. This is not a watch you rush into. This is a watch you learn. It suits you if curiosity goes beyond design and if understanding matters as much as wearing. Some watches feel like objects, others feel like stories. This is clearly the second kind. Fukushima Watch Co builds watches that reflect place, memory, and resilience. You see it in colours first. Dial tones draw from land, seasons, and local culture. Nothing feels random. Everything feels connected. Designs often use small seconds, which slows visual rhythm. That detail changes how time feels on wrist. It becomes calmer, more reflective. Movements remain dependable and practical. This is not about complication. It is about meaning. Wearing one feels like carrying a quiet narrative. It speaks to you if watches feel more powerful when they stand for something beyond design. You know what is interesting about Knot? It never feels like it wants to tell you what to like. It feels like it wants to ask you what you like, and that changes whole relationship right from start. We usually talk about Japanese watches as something very fixed, very disciplined. Knot goes the other way. You pick case, you pick dial, you pick strap. Before you even wear it, watch already feels personal. And once it is on wrist, that feeling only grows. Then you start noticing details. Urushi lacquer that does not scream luxury, but sits deep and calm. Raden and gold leaf that feel cultural, not decorative. These are traditional techniques, but applied in a way that still fits daily wear. Their automatic chronographs using Seiko NE88 are a good example. On paper, it is a serious movement. On wrist, it still feels easy to live with. Knot works for you if watches are part of your lifestyle, not trophies. You wear them, change them, and grow with them. Let us be honest for a second. Not every watch passion starts with history or heritage. Sometimes it starts with objects we already love: cameras, music, design tools. That is exactly where Tacs begins. You look at something like AVL2 and you do not need explanation. It feels like a camera lens on wrist. Bezel rotation feels familiar, almost instinctive, like focusing a shot. That interaction alone makes you smile. Yes, cases are large, but scale supports idea. This watch is not trying to disappear, it is trying to express something. Dial layers feel intentional. Open heart movement adds motion without turning it technical. Movements remain reliable Japanese automatics, which keeps experience relaxed. You are not babying it, you are enjoying it. Tacs fits you if watches feel like creative extensions of your personality, especially when design matters as much as time. Let us pause on something simple but powerful: numerals. Because here, numerals change everything. Before you notice case or movement, your eyes settle on numbers that feel carved, not printed. Inspiration comes from watches of the 1930s to 1950s, yet execution feels grounded and modern. Cases feel substantial, without unnecessary thickness. Proportions feel carefully judged. Manual wind movements add ritual to ownership. You wind daily, you feel resistance, you feel connection. Popular pieces like Type 1D show how engraved numerals, friction-plated dials, and classic layouts come together quietly. Naoya Hida works for you if routine matters, if interaction matters, if you enjoy watches that ask for time rather than attention. Now picture a very different mood. Night city, reflections on glass, colour that feels sharp but controlled. That atmosphere sits right at centre of Namica. These watches feel modern immediately. Dial colours push boundaries, yet legibility stays strong. Contrast is bold but never careless. Even kanji elements feel like part of language, not decoration. Take Shirahama series. You get proper diver specs, water resistance you can trust, movements that behave, yet visually it feels far from traditional dive watches. It feels current, almost urban. Namica works for you if modern design feels natural to you. If you like watches that look forward rather than backward, it gives you expression without sacrificing function, which is harder to do than it sounds. Let us slow down again, because this one changes rhythm completely. When you wear a Future Funk, you do not just check time, you wait for it. Numbers roll vertically, like an old odometer. That motion changes how you interact with watch. It adds a small pause to your day. Design pulls from 70s retro future ideas, space-age optimism, mechanical curiosity. Cases feel bold, almost playful. You know people will notice it, and that is part of fun. Movement is quartz, and honestly, that fits perfectly here. No complication, no maintenance stress. You just enjoy experience. This watch is not about precision in seconds. It is about joy in design. Future Funk suits you if watches feel like conversations. Something you enjoy explaining. Something that makes time feel less serious. Let us bring things back to balance. Familiar shapes, but seen through a Japanese lens. That is where Mirco feels comfortable. Tool watch silhouettes feel recognizable, yet color choices change whole mood. Traditional Japanese tones appear through anodized aluminum dials and bezels. Light plays softly across surfaces, not sharply. Chronograph layouts stay legible. Cases feel wearable. Movements remain dependable. Everything feels cohesive rather than experimental. Mirco works for you if you enjoy quiet innovation. Something different enough to feel special, but calm enough to live with every day. You know what often gets overlooked when we talk about watches? Simplicity that feels intentional. Not boring simplicity, but the kind that feels settled. That is where Alba quietly sits. When you look at an Alba, especially pieces designed by Riki Watanabe, nothing tries to compete for attention. Numerals feel calm. Spacing feels natural. You read time without effort, and that matters more than we admit. These watches do not ask you to think about them. Quartz movements keep things easy. You grab it, put it on, and go about your day. There is no ceremony here, and that is part of charm. For us, Alba makes sense when watch passion matures a bit. When you start appreciating design that knows when to stop. It works for you if time should feel gentle, not demanding. Let me ask you something simple. How many times have you taken off a watch because it just did not feel right after a few hours? That is the problem Orion quietly solves. Everything here starts with ergonomics, lug shape, case curve, thickness, crown position. Once it is on wrist, it stays there. You stop thinking about it, which is exactly what good design should do. Hellcat 36 shows this clearly. Size feels classic. Presence feels confident. Dial options like Meteorite or Mother of Pearl add texture, but never distract from readability. Movements from Miyota 9000 series keep case slim and reliable. Orion fits you if comfort matters as much as aesthetics. If a watch should adapt to you, not the other way around. Now let us talk about real life. Meetings, work days, travel. Situations where you want a watch to feel appropriate without feeling invisible. That is exactly where I.Taru comes in. These watches are designed around impression, but not flash. Cases feel compact, yet there is weight and presence. Dials stay clean and professional. Finishing feels refined, not decorative. Movements come from Miyota, chosen for reliability and easy ownership. That choice tells you a lot about intent. This is not about impressing other collectors. This is about fitting naturally into your daily routine. I.Taru suits you if you want a mechanical watch that behaves well in professional spaces. Quiet confidence. No explanation needed. Well, that was all. Share your thoughts in the comment. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe for more watch videos.